Hi, my name is Riley Allen. This is my review of the movie Pinocchio, the 1940 Disney version. We start off by being introduced to the hobo cricket, Jiminy Cricket, who's basically, breaking into this wood shop which is run by Geppetto. Geppetto is a woodsmaker that basically makes kinda, in my opinion, questionably designed clocks and other designs, trinkets. He has a cat named Figaro and a fish named Cleo. His current project, which seems to be like a passion project, is the wooden puppet Pinocchio. I say it's a passion project because it seems this man was working well into the night, a bedtime, basically, on this. Well, he finishes the project, then he goes to bed. He sees a star and he wishes on it that Pinocchio would be a real boy. He's a bit too attached to this puppet, I'm just saying. Well, the star turned out to be the Blue Fairy, who grants Geppetto's wish, kinda. Turning Pinocchio alive, and saying he could be a real boy if he's honest, brave, true, everything a child is not. Most of the time. Well, also, she forgot to give Pinocchio the manual, like, hey, if you lie, your nose is gonna grow. We'll just leave you to find that out, though. And Pinocchio's not even alive for like 5 minutes, and he's getting thrown into the deep end by Geppetto being sent to school. Which is, good and all, but maybe we should give Pinocchio a few lessons before. Like his ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, the don't talk to strangers. Maybe give him some life lessons, a few life lessons. Well, anyway, on the way, also, because Pinocchio doesn't know anything, and the Blue Fairy acknowledges that, she makes Jiminy Cricket his conscience. Gives him a nice snazzy upgrade, a new hat, some clothes. Then we're introduced to, on his way to school, he meets Honest John and his pal Gideon the Cat, who are going to con Pinocchio to sell him to Stromboli, who is like a circus director or whatever, and a puppeteer, gonna sell Pinocchio to Stromboli. Pinocchio basically completely disregards Jiminy's advice to not do that. I mean, I'd take your conscience advice on this time, dude. You've only been like alive for a day. At least I think. The timeline of this movie isn't really specified. It seems to take place over at least a decent amount of time. Well, he proceeds to make a good performance at Stromboli's of No Strings Attached to Me. While Stromboli's counting his coins, Pinocchio says, wow. He proceeds to give Pinocchio a worthless, washer or whatever, worthless coin. And Pinocchio, not knowing that it's worthless, says, wow, thank you. He's all grateful. He's excited, and he's like, I'm gonna go show my father. Ooh, Stromboli didn't like that. That's not the deal that Stromboli was made. He proceeded to lock Pinocchio in a cage. Jiminy basically came to the rescue, though, or at least attempted to. Didn't really work out that well. And then the Blue Fairy came, And this is basically Pinocchio's mom, basically, she created him, so he's kind of embarrassed, So he starts lying, he started really digging that hole. And Geppetto's over here like, no, don't drag me into this. No. Well, eventually his nose grew so long that it grew a branch, grew a nest, bird eggs, the birds hatched, the nest died, and the tree died. All while he was telling these lies. And the blue fairy said, I'll forgive you just this once. Turned him back to normal and freed him. Now, Pinocchio was getting ready. He's gonna go to go back home. And there comes Johnny, and the coachman, and he gets conned into going to Pleasure Island with a bunch of other misbehaving kids. Or boys, specifically boys, it's specifically boys. And they get to Pleasure Island, and he meets this guy named Lampwick, and Lampwick's his new best buddy. Side note, there are things that in this scenes that would never be allowed to fly, like they're smoking cigars. And then Jiminy comes in trying to convince Pinocchio to leave, and then he tells Lampwick, go ahead, act like a jackass. Another thing that would not fly today, which is even hilarious considering Lampwick did turn into a jackass, a donkey. Because that's what this whole Pleasure Island thing was, a whole scheme to get boys, turn them into donkeys, and then sell them by the coachman. Well, Pinocchio managed to escape with Jiminy. They escaped by jumping into the water. Although Pinocchio, did have a tail, did have ears. He made it home only to find out that his father had left and has been searching for him, which, rare show of a Disney dad or Disney parent actually giving a crap. Or actually, doing something instead of, dying off screen. The Blue Fairy basically delivers, I'm assuming it's the Blue Fairy, delivers a messenger bird, which delivers a message, which tells him that Geppetto is trapped in the whale Monstro. How he is not dead, I don't know. Disney logic. Anyway, Pinocchio makes a plan to go save him. Ties his tail around a rock so he's weighed down in the water. Well, Jiminy says, no, I've come this far. I can't abandon you now. Joins him. They're followed by some fish until Jiminy asks, hey, have you seen Monstro? They're like, no, you dumb. We don't want to be here. So they flee. Eventually, they do find Monstro because Monstro has to eat. So he opened his mouth, swallowed some fish, which Geppetto capitalized on immediately, snatching the fish so he could eat them. And he's in there, and he has a whole houseboat and stuff. Then Pinocchio gets in there, and he has the idea of smoking them out. So he basically burns the whole ship, making Monstro sneeze, which allows him, Figaro, Cleo, or, them all to escape. Well, once they escape, what follows is like a battle, because Monstro was mad. They eventually did manage to escape, although Pinocchio basically died at the end. Although, considering, he was honest, brave, and true in the eyes of the Blue Fairy, he was resurrected as a real boy. And he, comes back and says, Father, I'm alive, I'm a real boy. And Geppetto's like, no, you died, that's why I'm sad. He's like, man, I miss him so much, I can still hear his voice. No, I'm still alive, I'm alive now. And, the movie ends with a good celebration. I enjoyed this movie more than I thought I would, because I never really enjoyed this movie when I was younger, but it was a fun movie to watch. I think this is going to be a trend, movies I didn't enjoy when I was younger, I'm enjoying now. I didn't like Snow White when I was younger, but when I rewatched it a few months ago. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite movie, just like I wouldn't say this is my favorite movie, but, you know, they're not as bad as I remember them being, so. And this was a pretty enjoyable watch, so I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.